What's up, y'all? It's man Ernest, or you love Ernest, back again with another episode of the Ernest Thoughts Podcast. If you hear some outside noises or if it sounds like the wind is blowing, I got the window up, you know what I'm saying? So, per usual, you might hear some voices outside and make a, special guest appearance. I don't know, but let's continue on. So, I wanted to branching off of what I talked about last week. I said that there were a number of things that I mentioned last week when I talked about the whole paying ties thing. I said that there were a bunch of topics within the things that I said during that time or during that topic that I could make like full-fledged, not just episodes about, but just separate topics alone about those said uh, you know, subject matters. And this was one of them that I brought up. So I thought since there was not much else for me to cover this week, or at least other than the other two topics that you will hear me discuss here, I might as well talk about why I ended up joining a church in the first place. So again, for those who did listen to last week, I appreciate you for listening, but I will reiterate this part here for those who may not have listened or those who just want a reminder because it fits into this topic. So, um, I joined the church that I joined not last week, but it was 3 years now, about 3 years now. But I joined a church in general simply because I wanted to be around like faith individuals, but it didn't necessarily start off that way. It started off as me just joining the church simply because an old acquaintance that I know, oh, well, I still know them. I just don't associate with them. But an old acquaintance invited me, and I was like, fine, sure, whatever. I'll go. Like, I'm just keeping it real with you. But before I ended up joining the church, as I stated last week, I did a little bit of volunteer work for them. Um, I say a little bit because it was one time, but what I did that day was no small feat. But anyway, so pretty much as I've stated this before, I'll say it again because it fits to this topic. So 3 years ago, and an acquaintance of mine, an old friend, I'm gonna just put it that way because, I'll just put it that way. But an old friend of mine posted on Facebook that her church, the church that I belong to now, her church was doing a food drive for Thanksgiving. This was around again Thanksgiving. This was like a couple weeks before Thanksgiving. I believe this happened a couple days actually, not even a couple weeks. It may have been a week or so, but I believe it was like on the 18th of November of 3 years ago. So, um, she posted it earlier on that week and was saying that her, asking people if they needed anything or if they just wanted to come and help volunteer to pretty much let her know. And me being on Facebook and just scrolling around at the time, I saw the opportunity to help out and volunteer. As I've mentioned last week, and I believe I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Um, I'm the type of individual that whenever I can help out with anything, I like to volunteer and help out with, whatever, because that's just the type of person I am. You know, people say you can say you have a caring heart, I have a giving heart, I have whatever the case is, and all of that may be true. But I just see it as if there are people in need and I can do something about it. If there's people who need some help and I can help make their situation easier, I'm gonna do what I can to do that because that's just, part of how I am. No, you know what I'm saying? So I saw the post on Facebook, like I said, and I took it upon myself to um I think I commented initially before we started conversing within on Facebook Messenger, but I let her know that I would be down and volunteering and helping out. And then that's when the convo changed from on the post to and messages, and then we just talked about how we're gonna where's that and all this other stuff, right? I didn't know what I was gonna do per se. I was just told. I was honestly thinking, they said food drive, so I was honestly thinking everything was going to be already there set up. All I would have to do was stand behind some table and hand out some food. That's honestly what I thought was happening. Um, and or at least that's what I thought what I was going to do. Let me put it that way. We did still hand out food, but it wasn't your typical people stand behind the table and then they just give away food or whatever, give away bags of food or give away whatever they're giving away, right? It wasn't that typical of a food drive. I went there and as I mentioned last week, I showed up an hour later than the time that they said to be there, or at least I was told to be there. I think I was told to be there around like 9 or 10 a.m. and I showed up around like 11. So like an hour or two, but at the same time, still the food wasn't even there yet. The truck, let's just say that because the food comes within the truck. The truck wasn't even there yet. So I still showed up on time to give away stuff. I just didn't show up, on time to start the cleaning. But even when I got there, I was helping clean it up. They wanted help cleaning up they got the area to where we were giving out the food. It's pretty much in a church parking lot. But it also doubles as like a residential parking lot because there's houses and apartments nearby, and there's this big parking lot which everybody uses. Again, the church uses it, and the people who are residents around that church use it. It needed a lot of cleaning. It was for some reason it was a bunch of just gunk and just for some reason I don't know why people felt the need to leave that parking lot. It was a specific area of the parking lot. It wasn't the entire thing, but nonetheless a specific area that just needed cleaning. Um, and I was there to help out. I mean, I was throwing away things. I was getting dirty. I'd worn my J's that day because I was thinking once again, all I'm going to be doing is standing behind the table and and handing out food. I didn't think I was going to get messy. Uh, thank God the J's didn't get that dirty, but they got dirty nonetheless. And I wasn't upset like at anybody. It was like, well, these you shouldn't have worn these shoes today. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was saying to myself. But pretty much, um, I did a lot of cleaning of that parking lot. That's just one of the many things that I did for the church. Um, and the community in general to which I feel as though that it even if it doesn't get overlooked by everybody, it still was something that was taken for granted. And again, that was something that I said is another topic that I might talk about even next week or so if I don't have much else to say, if I don't think of other topics. But I do that, I volunteer. Again, I give out, I'm not only giving out the food, but I am putting things together. Like people want certain things within the truck. Again, the truck finally gets here after some time. And then I'm like helping out with taking the food off the truck. And now these are some heavy fat turkeys that I'm giving away. This is not just some bags of or boxes of macaroni and cheese. And this is Thanksgiving time. So there's canned goods, which if you got a bunch of canned goods, I can get pretty heavy. Turkeys, like I said, that's already heavy enough. So imagine carrying two. One is already heavy enough. So imagine carrying two turkeys within, your hands and all this other stuff, right? So it's turkeys, canned goods, all the other fixings and all the other stuff, drinks as well, big gallons of drinks. Like the apple ciders and stuff like that. Other drinks people typically have on Thanksgiving or around the holidays and stuff. Um, just food in general that one would have around Thanksgiving, Christmas time. So, like, this stuff is not only does it feel heavy after you eat that stuff, after you consume that stuff, but it feels heavy giving away that stuff. So, you got to have a lot of, you know what I'm saying? You got to have some muscle, you got to have some strength to you if you're going to go back and forth inside of a U-Haul truck and, give this stuff out to people and multiple trips because multiple families or at least one person is getting a lot of stuff with it, a bunch of people, whatever the case is, right? So it's no slouch what I was doing. I was happy that I did it because I got to see the smile on people's faces. People thanked me for doing it, and I just out of even if no one thanked me or I didn't get to see smiles, I felt good doing it. You know what I'm saying? And that's a big part of why I like to do things like volunteer my time and service because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good doing those things. So again, I did that for the church and it wasn't the first Sunday after Thanksgiving, it was the second Sunday after Thanksgiving, so a week later, pretty much, um, where I first went that was my first time going to church, you know what I'm saying? Or at least that church, not to church in general, but it was my first time in years, and I mean years, like years going to church in general. But that was my first time going to that church was, the first Sunday, or at least a week later on a Sunday, right? Don't remember the date, but just ride with me. So that's what it was. Um, and again, I did it because of this acquaintance. I went with her, literally. So it was her family. We went, boom. I showed up before they did because we didn't arrive together, but I still showed up and people are like, "Oh, you're so and so's, friend or associate or whatever," right? She had lied and told for some folks that we was together. Heck no. But anyways, uh, they were like, "You're so and so's, whatever." So I'm like, "Yeah, I believe they're on their way." This, that, and the third. They did end up showing up, but that was it. That was literally the first initial reason as to why I started going to church was because of a friend. She brought me in, um, or a former friend at the time, or an old acquaintance at the time, right? She brought me in, and I want to say the for the first month or so, um, yeah, it was literally like the first month. Her and I went to church together, but then December came, and then it was time to do another like type of food drive. This time it was like a Christmas. I can't even say the word, but Christmas type of food drive. This one was a little different from the Thanksgiving one, being that this one was indoors because it was raining out. Number two, I believe by the time I got there, the food was already there. Um, I believe so. Um, that's what it is. I showed up late again, but this time the food was there. The food was there before me, so I wasn't able to take it off the truck. But nonetheless, I still was there. And this time it felt or it looked like your typical food drive where I'm standing behind a table and I'm giving away food, right? But this time I was manning about like two, three tables that was near me because again, it's not a lot of people. I go to this church, or there are people. It's a good amount, but not a lot of people who volunteer. Let me put it that way. Not a lot of people who volunteer when it's time to volunteer. When it's time to give away stuff to other people. Again, people who've been going to this church way longer than I have, they don't show up, but I do. And just to remind you, I've only been a member of this church for 3 years. Yet every opportunity that we have to go out and serve the community, I am always there. In fact, last week would have been, well, not last week, a couple days ago, from when I'm recording this, Thursday, would have been the first time in a volunteer situation where we're serving the community, doing another food drive again, where I would not have showed up. And when I let it be known, hey, listen, I can't show up Thursday. I let it be known earlier on that I couldn't show up. The event gets canceled. With no word as to why it got canceled, but And I'm not like leading the event. It wasn't like, oh, Ernest can't show up, which means it's canceled. I wasn't leading it. I was volunteering it, but I couldn't be there, and therefore it got canceled. I'll get into why I think that is the case probably later, or if not, when I talk about my service to this church and what I've done later on, or at least go more in depth. But nonetheless, it was around Christmas time. This friend, this old friend, or at least December time, not Christmas time, but leading up to it, of course. Um, this old friend, she stopped going to the church, right? And one Sunday, it was like the Sunday um after that the Christmas giveaway. One of the church mothers, or the church mother, she's the only one in the church right now, but the church mother came up to me and pretty much asked me what happened to those people. How come they aren't showing up anymore? And I'm like, I don't know. They're not necessarily. She thought we were family because, again, I believe this friend, or this old friend, told people at the church that we were somehow an item, right? You know what I'm saying? But like, she thought we were family, so she asked like, what about their whereabouts? And I'm like, no, I just know this girl. And in fact, to be honest with y'all, to be real with y'all, that was the second time I've ever even saw her, ever. The first time we even met up was years ago. We were both in our like early 20s, I believe. Early, if not early 20s, mid 20s. Nonetheless, it was years ago, and it was at a train station. That's the first time we saw each other, you know? And so that giveaway, that Thanksgiving giveaway, was my second time actually seeing this woman, right? My first time seeing her mother and my first time seeing her son, right? So my first time meeting her family in general was 3 years ago. That was my second time seeing her. So, with that being said, yeah, we're not family. But no, with that also being said, it wasn't like me and her were like well acquainted. Like, yes, we've known each other for years, but it was through social media, okay, through Facebook. That's number one. And then we finally, saw each other at a train station again after talking on Facebook for a little bit. But then it wasn't, nothing happened after that. And then years later, many, many moons later, we meet up for the second time at her church. So, anyways, so the church mother asked me what's up, pretty much. She didn't say what's up, but she pretty much was like, what happened with the family? I'm like, I don't know. I'm here though. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it was. So the church mother and then other people who inquired about this member, I'm like, y'all know her. You've known her longer than I have. You know what I'm saying? You've met her. You have her contact info. You have all this other stuff. Go talk to her if you're really concerned. I even at one point was like, hey, listen, people keep asking me about you. So I'm reaching out to let you know that you have people asking about your whereabouts. So can you please tell them, because they keep coming to me and I don't know what's going on with you other than what you're telling me. The reason as to why she stopped going to the church, and I'm not going to say names here or whatever, but of course, other than mine, but the reason why she stopped going to that church, number one, she lived in a different city. Both her and I live in a different city from the church, but she doesn't live in Boston. I'm in Boston, but the church is in uh the church is in Malden. She lives in Worcester. Anyone familiar with the Massachusetts map? You do the math, but these are cities that are not within close proximity, or not a lot of, they're not too far away from each other, but they're not super close. I think her city is the farther one from Malden. I think. Don't know. But with that being said, um, it was like, yeah, she was like, number one, I'm coming from Worcester, and it takes, some time to get there. That's number one. But in my head, I'm like, but you've been doing this for the longest. Like, like, what do you mean it takes? You just now realized that, like, why stop now? Um, that was in my head, right? It was like, why you done got me roped into this church, and now you stop going simply because of distance, although you've been living in Worcester and going to this very church for the longest. Oh, that okay. But also she had issues with a few of the members there. She didn't like, because churches gossip, and she didn't like the fact that these folks gossiped about her and her mother. Um, and she knew that they gossiped, and she never confronted them about it. And my thing was like, hey, listen, if it's bothering you that much, I think you should confront them about it. I don't care if you think it's ungodly, like, you ain't got to start with some heat, but but you can come to them and say, hey, listen, I heard you say this thing about me. I heard you say this thing about my mom, and it made me feel this way. And hopefully we can talk about it, because what I heard you say was something disrespectful, and I want to know why you felt the need to say those things, or why you felt like it was okay for you to say this thing about me or my mom. You know what I'm saying? That's my thing. She didn't want to do that, so I said, fine. I mean, she talked about your mama. She ain't talking about my mama. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying she, I'm using the pronoun she because they're talking about this is a woman beefing with another woman or other women and stuff. But I'm like, they didn't say nothing about my mama. So with that being said, I can't do nothing for you, man. I can't do nothing for you, man. Like, I can't be more upset about this situation than you. That's your mom. But if you don't want to confront them about it, you don't want to come to church, you want to cower away. Let me not use that word. But if you don't want to go to this church, because I'm not going to use the word cow. But if you feel as though you've been disrespected to the point to where you can't even you don't want to show up to this church, um, I can't call you a coward about it, because I feel the way now. I feel that way now, not about these members, because I've been really tight, and I had him still. And I pray to God that, after I make my departure, these folks are still, cool and all right with me. But I'm not gonna hold my. I'm not gonna die if they decide they don't want to mess with me no more. But I get it. I understand now. I understand her, now, to say, listen, I don't want to go to this church. I don't think she stopped going to church. I think she ended up going to a church that was closer to where she lived. Which, I mean, geographically and distance wise and all that other stuff, it makes total sense. And again, if you're getting along with people at that church and they're not talking mess about you or your mom or saying things that you felt was disrespectful, then why, by all means, why not go to that church? You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be mad at her for that. When I say we're old acquaintances and stuff, it's because there are other things about her that I had an issue with. And it's got zero to do with her not going to the church anymore. I could give a damn, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? But my thing to her was just, listen, if you got a problem with some folks, church or not, I am big on taking it to their face, letting them know, hey, listen, this is an issue. And I don't like the disrespect. You know what I'm saying? If they react a certain way, may God be in the middle of you all's interaction. But, let's hope that everyone could be mature and amicable about it, and let's move forward. You know what I'm saying? But as far as me, because I know I went all over the place, but it's only been 23 minutes now, so I've been kind of good. That's good as far as rambling time, but because I could go on longer. But you know, I went again, I started going simply because of this old acquaintance. I stayed afterward because I started to feel like I was connected to, or finally getting that deeper connection, not just with God, but just with God's people. And that's why last week I said I wanted to be around like faith people, not like minded, because these people don't think like me. Not at all. And I don't think like them. All right. Uh, when I hear like minded, I mean people who share a lot of thinking, that share a lot of the thinking process or just thoughts that I have. These people don't have the thought processes that I have. and they damn sure don't have the same opinions and thoughts that I have. So I'm not going to say these are like-minded people, but they're Christians, like I identify as a Christian, and that is our faith. And therefore, I say like faith, not like-minded. Okay? Yeah, we might both think that Jesus is, the ruler and the king and, the savior. But if that's the only thought that we have, I'm still not confident and comfortable calling them like-minded individuals. That's no disrespect at all. That's just me simply just saying, listen, I wouldn't consider them like-minded individuals. I consider people who think like me or have the same thoughts as I do like-minded people, whether they have the same faith or not. But that's not a disrespect. That's not a dig or anything. I'm just saying what I would categorize these folks as. So I started to feel that. I started to feel like, okay, I'm around these like faith individuals. I myself was starting to love God again, to be real with you, or to have a connection with God to the point to where I started to see the importance of having God in your life. But I had that connection and wanted that connection, or at least I didn't need to go to a church in general for me to get that. What else added to it wasn't just me going to church. In fact, that was a part of it wasn't even a huge part, but it's a part nonetheless. But what added to why I feel as though my love for not church, but my love for God had a resurgence was just everything that I saw him do for me. When I finally took the time to look back at my life and my situation, even right now, it was like nobody but God could do this for me. You know what I'm saying? And obviously him putting the power within me to do what he wants me to do. But it was like there's a powerful force out there protecting me, guiding me, and that has to be God. And that is why I joined the church. You know what I'm saying? Or stayed with the church because I wanted to find that. And now that I found that, I stuck around. And this wasn't like this is not a recent revelation, by the way. I found that I want to say maybe around year two or one, probably sometime, you know, this wasn't like a 2014 revelation. Let me just put it that way. This was maybe around 2022, if not or the same year, which was again 2021 when I started going to the church. But I didn't become a member because me being someone, me being me, right? I was thinking, right? I've been going to this church for 3 years. I'm already a member. I didn't officially get sworn in as a member until 2023. But even prior to me officially being sworn in as a member of said church, I was still someone that felt like, okay, I finally have a connection with God. And it may not look like your connection. In fact, it probably doesn't look like your connection with God. But that's the thing. Your connection is yours, mine is mine. Um, what does this person say? Oh man, whatever. Anyways, that's my thing though. It's like it was even prior to 2023. Like I said, it may have been like the beginning of 2022 or sometime in 2021. Well, this is not some super recent. It's not brand new. I mean, it's not super like old, but it's not a recent revelation of I finally have a connection with God. And that is why I started going to that church. It just so happened that I didn't see myself, and I should have known this because I have this effect on people, church or non-church folk. I didn't see it. I didn't plan for things to be the way to where I have this connection with folks and or at least I'm just me being me, and it creates some type of connection with folks to the point where they now all of a sudden want to be around me. You know what I'm saying? There's been Sundays I haven't gone to church. It wasn't like I've been to church I didn't go today. But like it wasn't like I haven't gone, like there haven't been times where I didn't go to church on a Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Or just church in general. Um Throughout the 3 years I've been going to this church. You know, there have been times where I've taken time off. There have been times where I missed it simply because I had a legitimate reason. There have been times where I was like, I just really don't feel like getting up out of bed and going to this place today. I just don't. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't show up. And there have been times where I know I should have let someone know that I didn't show up, and I still didn't because I'm like, I don't, man, I felt, to be honest with you though, I felt like it wasn't my responsibility. Like I had no responsibility to these people. But I know for a fact that people people love me, people like me, people want to know what's up. People want to know I'm safe. People want to know, all this other stuff. It's not just with me, it's with everybody that they're with. And I have to stop viewing situations from my point of view. My point of view is these are just other people that I do have a connection with. Not saying these people are not expendable or whatever. If it's a string of Sundays where I'm not seeing them, yeah, I do get worried when it comes to certain folk. If I don't have, I'm not connected with everybody at the church, but if I don't have a certain connection with you, because there's a lot of people, a few people there that I'm like, if I never see you again, I never see you again. I wish you well. I pray the best. I pray to God continues to protect you, and you're doing fine right now. But it's not. Hey, if I never see you again, I never see you again. And even with the people that I do have a deep connection with, or at least a deeper connection with, and I'm like, I really do f with this person. I really do like this individual. If it ends up being a situation to where God takes them or me out of their life, it's in God's hands. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like that's how I view it. But yeah, as I was stating before, I found that connection with God a long time ago, and ever since I found it a long time ago, meaning at least 2 years ago, at least 2 to 3 years ago, and since I found it, I don't feel the need to continue to go to church. You know what I'm saying? Now I continued going because again, I knew that I was around some folk and that wanted to see me. So it became more of God, I am here because your other children who, love and adore me want to see me, and I'm here to connect with them. I'm here to see their faces. I'm here to smile. I'm here to rejoice and be with them. And obviously, I'm here to connect with you, but you know that I was connecting with you prior to me stepping in this building. You know, I was connecting with you yesterday when I wasn't in this building. You know, I was connecting with you on my way to this building. You know, I was connecting with you the moment I woke up this morning when I woke up in my bed in my apartment, not in this church building. So, safe to say, you know that this connection that you and I have, it stands for far more than within the confines of these four walls in this church. You know what I'm saying? So that's been my thing. And it was like, but I know these people want to see me. I know that I have a connection with them. So with that being said, it's like let me continue to go. But as I hinted at last week, and I'm gonna say here again, and then I might wrap this topic up. I'm not going to put these things before my own well-being. If I feel as though that I am being used, and I am, but if I feel as though I'm being used and I'm not being valued as an individual, as a child of God at the very least, I will dip up out of this place. Now, folks gonna say again, people at this church or folks in general just gonna say, "Hey, you abandoning God." No, I'm abandoning His people. Like I said last week, I would never abandon God. but I will definitely continue to abandon his people. And now that's a conversation he and I will have when that time comes, or even sometime before that time comes. It depends on when that conversation happens. And I'm willing to have said conversation with God, and with his people if they want to have a mature conversation about it. But this isn't the first situation. I didn't talk about it before. I may have hinted at it, but I never really went in depth. But this isn't the first situation relating to me to where I feel as though, nah, these people aren't, or this church. I won't say these people, but I mean the people in the church. So yeah, so these people aren't people I'm going to continue to be around. Now, granted, I will say that situation, I overreacted like a mug, and I was being my emotional, overreacting self that I can be, and that situation was totally like, I can look back at that now and be like, Ernest, you was a dumbass. And you know what I'm saying? Excuse my language, you was a dumbass. You know what I'm saying? You totally overreacted. That situation was not, you blown that situation out of proportion. It was, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to detail it here, but it was just a situation to where I blew it out of proportion. And that was on me. And I could take full ownership of that. But that don't mean that because I blew that situation out of the park and I can view that now. And even back then, I was still seeing it that way. But I can see it that way. But that situation again was blown out of proportion. This situation here though isn't. This situation is a compiling situation of ways that I was being talked to, ways that I saw myself being treated, or yeah, just ways that I saw myself being treated compared to others who did far less than I have. You know what I'm saying? And again, ways that I was either being treated or just ways I was being talked to compared to other people who, again, who have done far less than I have. And I'm not saying that I should be treated like a king, you know what I'm saying, at this church. I'm not saying I should be treated as any type of other royalty or just treated like I'm God himself, Jesus himself. Absolutely not. But there has to be a respect, especially for individuals who day in and day, every time there is a situation, there is an opportunity to volunteer, whether it be for the church or somebody at the church is doing something else and they need somebody's help. I'm the one that people go to, and I'm the one that extends the hand and says, I will be there. Just tell me what you need and I got you. Tell me what you need me to do and I will do it. I'm not asking for money when I do these things. I'm not asking for favors. I'm not asking for, okay, remember me when I do. All I'm asking for is respect, though. Respect, because I'm not the only one at this church. There's folks there's other people that you can go to, other people, even people who got way more resources than I do. They don't volunteer. When they get asked to do something, they got an excuse as to why they can't do it. Me with far less than they have, I always take it upon myself. If I don't take it upon myself, someone asks me to do it, and the answer is always yes. So, with that being said, it's a situation to where, yeah, this time I'm not tripping. Because as I was saying last week, if you have a genuine heart, if you have a good heart, people will take advantage of it. Church folks or not. People will take advantage of it, or people will say you're not doing something, or whether you're not doing this, you're not doing that, or you should do this because of your religion. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, that's exactly what they were telling the slaves. Do this work because God said to do it. Or if you consider yourself a Christian slave, Well, you're a slave, but you consider yourself a Christian, right? A believer of Jesus Christ. Then you should just do these things. Meanwhile, you aren't being respectful. Meanwhile, you aren't being of service of anybody. You're just taking. And yet you still call yourself a Christian and consider yourself a Christian. Yeah. So I hope I answered my own question, or at least, didn't go all over the place, but I probably did. Either or, just to reiterate, the reason as to why I started going to church, number one, because an old acquaintance had asked me to, and I said, yeah. We went to church for like together for like a month. She stopped going because she had her reasons. I continued going because I found a reason. That reason being I wanted to have a connection with God. Once I found that connection within a year or the second year I started going, I could have easily backed out. In fact, I remember the first Sunday after I came to the realization I didn't go to the church. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, I don't need to go anymore, But then the folks was like, hey, we miss you. What's going on? We want to know if you still have, if you still, are, and I was just like, yeah, I still got this connection with God. But you know what? Let me show up. And then ever since then, I've been showing up, not just to church, but to volunteer, to help out the community, to help out anybody who needed help with anything, to clean up, to fix things, to donate money, donate time, none of that. And like I said, out of all of the times last week, and I'll display these times in depth in a future episode. But out of the thousands of hours, because this thousands now, it's been 3 years. So it's out of the thousands of hours that I've done at this church and working, volunteering. Out of the thousands of hours, I've only been paid 3 times. Twice was helping someone bring their food to their car, and it was the same woman who would slide me $1 or $2 here and there. The third time wasn't even for the church. It was a person who went to the church or goes to the church sometimes, and her and her son host these basketball tournaments, and they needed catering, and I got paid to do that. That's it. That's it. Thousands of hours of work, paid 3 times. 2 of those times, I got $2. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. Come on. Anyways, we'll get into a commercial break and then we'll get into the next topic. Stay tuned.